You are in May 2020. You're staring at the ceiling in your bedroom. You've been put on furlough from your job because of the lockdown. You can't see any of your friends, despite how close some of them are. And on top of that, you're dealing with the aftermath of a family issue. You have 40 or so games you own but have yet to play, but one in particular just calls to you. Maybe it's because of everything you've heard about it, or simply just because it's colourful. And after 87 hours and 36 minutes of playing, you realise that this is one of the best games you have ever played in your life, and one you didn't realise you needed. This was me after I played Atlus's Persona 5 for the first time. A game that is on one hand completely and earnestly nonsensical, but on the other hand, a relatable story of people taking on the unjust cruelties of the modern world. And within that comes a game that for many people is a great JRPG. But to people like me who deal with loneliness and nihilism on a near daily basis, it's an inspiration to keep moving forward. I'm Green Ornstein of Curmudgeon Media, and I want to talk about why Persona 5 is for lonely people. For those of you who aren't familiar with Persona 5, firstly, hello, I hope you're having a nice day. Secondly, I'll go over the general plot and setup as concisely as I can, and believe me, this is just the tip of a very, very stylish iceberg. Within Persona 5's universe, there's a dimension running parallel to the real world, referred to as the metaverse, which reflects the strongest and darkest desires of humanity. These evil impulses manifest themselves as palaces, labyrinthine structures that embody how an individual views the world and themselves.
It's a metaphor.
Back in reality, you, in a bold move for a JRPG, are a high schooler, but one with a criminal record and under a year's probation. After being forced to move away from your hometown, the main goal is to not cause any trouble at your new school, though inevitably that goes out the window when you get wrapped up in the metaverse. This surreal world gifts you with the power to change people's hearts in the real world by fighting them in their palaces. With that, you battle those who abuse their authority with your rebellious spirit, your persona. Under the codename Joker, you gradually befriend a merry band of misfits to take into the metaverse with you, creating a name for yourselves as the Phantom Thieves of Hearts. I assure you that is not everything, and frankly explaining all of it would take as long as playing the game itself. But from this, the core of what makes it great can be seen. There are many JRPGs and even Western video games that have a similar setup to Persona 5. Slowly gathering a ragtag group of misfits to take on an evil force is a fairly beaten path. But there's one aspect I love about Joker that makes him compelling despite only speaking 3 words at a time.
Yes!
And that's where he begins the story. Joker isn't a revered space captain, nor is he an amnesiac badass with a massive sword. What he is simply a teenager in the real world who had his life stripped from him because he did the right thing. He defended a woman from a sexual harassment, but the man used his power and influence to fabricate an assault charge. Because of that, now he's living in an attic above a coffee shop. He starts the story alone with no friends, disdain from his new guardian, and rumours already spreading about him at his new school. There's this air to Joker that the entire world is against him that makes it feel less like the beginning of a grand adventure, and more like trying to make the best of a situation he has no control over. The metaverse, for all its bizarre buildings and monsters, feels more like a lifeline rather than an additional problem. If there's anything monstrous and otherworldly towering over Joker, it's the real world. And that makes it more rewarding when he's given back the power that was stolen from him. The power to actually change his fate. There is a real appeal in the personas, not just because of, that, but because they symbolize a newfound capability to embrace who a person is and use that to their advantage. The fact they can awaken within anybody, even talking cats, makes it feel more like an achievement of freeing yourself from the universal human condition, effectively releasing you from your repressed emotions of self-hatred and regret. For many similar powers, like say the stands in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which they're clearly based on, their draw comes from their abilities and the curiosity of what yours might be. The personas have that, along with a more psychological appeal, basically a symbolic representation of your change. And it's hard not to feel like it's something that you want, or may even need. We can see this with every member of the Phantom Thieves as they reach a breaking point that hits them with an internal revelation. This leads us to the best part of the game, the Phantom Thieves themselves. I've rarely been as engrossed in an entourage of characters as I have been with the Phantom Thieves, and I've been trying to figure out why. One main reason is how the game is set up. It's essentially split into two halves. One is the palace infiltration in the metaverse, and the other is the real-world interactions where you can plan out your day and hang out with friends. And it's honestly hard to decide which one I prefer. The real-world interactions are almost entirely separate from the main game storyline, making it serve primarily as downtime. This disconnect lets you see the characters in a more casual light with no sense of urgency. And there's something really nice about this that just lets the characters be characters. Very few of these actually involve the metaverse and are just real-world problems like helping someone overcome social anxiety or rediscover a lost passion. At times, it's actually more pleasant to hang out with these characters than continue the plot.
We need to battle a mafia boss!
Yeah, I'm seeing a movie with Haru.
We're under attack by angel knights!
Yusuke has an art exhibit and he really just needs a friend to support him.
The world's on fire! Futaba needs a head pat!
And it creates this engrossing simulation of a social life. But the main draw isn't them as individuals, but as a group. There's a dynamic that grows throughout the game that makes them feel like an actual friend group rather than just allies. Which, considering how different their lifestyles are, not to mention the politics of high school, they would have no reason to be. But what links them isn't just the plot or the overall goal of the game, but the shared experience of struggling. Each one of them is an outcast for one reason or another, and, like Joker, they're plagued by issues that they are powerless to overcome. There are the members with tragic backstories that leave massive marks on them, but many of them are in the situations they're in simply as a result of how they're living their lives. A great example of this being Makoto Nijima. Makoto is the 6th member of the Phantom Thieves and holds the mantle of student president at Shujin Academy. Initially assigned by her superiors to uncover the Phantom Thieves within the school, her confliction of what she's doing begins to eat away at her. What makes Makoto a rather melancholic character goes beyond events in her life, though she certainly has that through her dad's death and the pressure it puts on her sister. But the constant chip on her shoulder is that she's forced to maintain this facade of a model student above everything else. People even threaten that reputation if she doesn't comply with their demands. It makes her feel like with all this pressure to follow the path laid out for her, she's unable to really make her own decisions. Which hits her with the realization that nobody actually cares what she thinks. And if you find yourself relating to Makoto, it's because you felt that, and maybe you're currently feeling it now. Loneliness isn't just through an absence of people in our lives. It's also the feeling that the people we're with don't understand us and, frankly, don't want to. But that's what makes the Phantom Thieves so appealing. There's this atmosphere of acceptance and embracing who they are as people and what they've been through. Ryuji is a hot-headed delinquent who's been forever branded a failure. Yusuke takes his art way too damn seriously, and because of his talent, he's been taken advantage of. And Futaba is a tech genius who's too traumatized to even leave the house. And it doesn't feel like they fit in despite those things, but because of those things. It creates this team of earnest weirdos who actually enjoy each other's company. And it's difficult not to look at that and think, I want that. It's a challenge to describe to people who haven't played JRPGs or watched anime why we enjoy playing or watching them. They're almost always about teenagers, and many are aimed at audiences probably younger than you. And to a degree, that's a fair question. Adolescence should be the most confusing part of a person's life, so these themes and ideas are surely best targeted to that age group. But the truth is that fear of the future and that constant sense of powerlessness doesn't go away when you get out in the real world. In fact, if anything, it gets worse. You're constantly reminded, whether subtly or just outright, that the world does not care about you. And it becomes much harder to escape this fact as it becomes such a prominent theme in media, even from video games. Persona 5 doesn't distract you from it. Rather, it acknowledges the hardships and problems and gives you the opportunity to take them on. And that can be by getting closer to the people around you, or by fighting the president of McDonald's in a space station. Yes, that happens. Persona 5 has this bombastic sincerity that can only really be done in anime or JRPGs. It is without a doubt ridiculous and over the top. Yes, a character wears a latex catsuit, there's a demon on a toilet, and you fight it using ghost pirates. And it's all the better for it. Because alongside this silliness and nonsense, there's a real story of acceptance, relationships, and the impact individuals can have on each other and the world. Even if you don't have the supernatural powers, you can still help someone find themselves again, or just give them someone to depend on. It's reminding them that they matter, and that you matter to them. It's because of this, as well as its layered gameplay and fantastic soundtrack, that made Persona 5 my favourite game. I haven't played Persona 4. A lot of people say it's much better than 5, and if you're one of those people, I hope you're right. I would love to find out that I have more to experience and that the best has yet to come. But what it's given me so far is the feeling that you are able to keep going and are capable of making things better. That is why I think Persona 5 is for lonely people, which really means it's for all of us. Special thanks to Ode Imaginations for letting me use their fantastic music in this video, including the song you're hearing right now. They compose fan music for games like the Persona franchise and, most recently, Hades, as well as original music. Check out their channel through the link in our description. I also want to thank our very own Tom for the opening animation. And if you're looking for another life-affirming game that's also a lot smaller than Persona 5, check out his video on Wandersong. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.